Hi guys, 2017 is well underway, so I thought I'd take just a couple minutes here and look over some of my favorite games that I played for the first time in 2016. First up is a game that I enjoyed more because it really surprised me, and that is the N64 port of the original Command and Conquer. And this one I just enjoyed so much because it shocked me how good it actually was for a port to a 5th gen console of a PC RTS. Those usually do not fare well in that transfer, especially because there is no mouse control. So if you ever played things like Warcraft 1 and 2, Command and Conquer, Myth, the old Doom games, you know that not having mouse control makes those exceptionally difficult and just awkward. But this, compared to even, say, the Warcraft 2 port to Saturn and the PlayStation, really fares well in the controls, and I really enjoyed it, and I like the graphical changes that they made. They changed a lot of the art from the original PC version and even the Saturn port. They made all the models into 3D, and it transferred really well. It actually works nicely, and I was very surprised by the ports. That was actually one of the favorite games I played this year, just because I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. I ended up playing through the whole game. A really good port. Next one, a game that I had only played briefly, I guess over 20 years ago now, well over 20 years ago, the NES port of Gauntlet. And I've always liked the Gauntlet games, especially Gauntlet Legends. Played a lot of that in the arcades, but I was very excited to get this, and I played a little bit on my own, played with my brother a little bit, and it was a lot of fun. More fun than I expected. I really enjoyed it, and again, that was kind of the theme with these first couple here is games that I knew I was kind of going to like, but they became one of my favorite games I played this year for the first time just because of how much they shocked me with the enjoyment I got out of them compared to what I was expecting. Next is Draconis, Cult of the Worm for the Dreamcast. This is an absolutely fantastic fantasy action-adventure game. Kind of odd controls at first and very unique. It's actually part of its charm. I think it feels very floaty and loose at first, but after you play for an hour or so and get used to it, it becomes a lot of fun. The levels are really expansive. There are so many different little intricacies to each level, so many different goals throughout each stage. It's a much bigger game than you expect when you first run into it. So it's a really fun game, and I'm pretty sure it's Dreamcast exclusive. I don't know if it was on the PC or not at the time, but other than that, on console it's at least Dreamcast exclusive, and it's a really good fantasy action adventure game. So if you like things like that, you should definitely check this out. A great game. Next is one I was a little late to the party with, just because I didn't have a working PS3 or 360 for a while. Finally got into South Park: The Stick of Truth. Knew I was going to love this game. It was no surprise. It was one of my favorites that I played for the first time last year. I've always been a big South Park fan ever since watching it over at my friend's house in elementary school when I wasn't allowed to watch it at my house, and that, when you're in 6th, 7th grade, that makes it extra cool, kind of. And ever since then, I've always been a big fan, and I knew I was going to like this. They finally made a good South Park game after all the disastrous ones on PS1 and the N64. Great game, and it was amazing, not just because it kept all the South Park charm and really felt like an extra long episode. It was a pretty decent RPG to boot. I mean, it actually wasn't, if you didn't know what South Park was, it still was a pretty decent RPG. It was absolutely hilarious. I loved it. There was so much to do. Just a great game. Number one this year, by far, my favorite game that I played for the first time in 2016. One I'd played demos of for hours upon hours over the years, played little bits of here and there, never had the chance to actually sit and play the entire game, and that is Skies of Arcadia for the Dreamcast. It is an amazing game, one of my favorite games for the Dreamcast now. I absolutely loved this. Finally got to play it last year for the first time, and easily the best game I played in 2016, Skies of Arcadia. There's something about the exploration, just the fact that the world map, you're on an airship, it has this sense of adventure and exploration that goes beyond so many RPGs of the time, even though a lot of the game really feels, there are a lot of generic tropes that they just kind of twist in a way that makes them feel interesting and original. They take a lot of what is the standard RPG of the time, JRPG of the time on consoles, and they put enough of a different twist and imagination into it that it becomes really its own thing, and just this fantastic adventure. I love the ship combat, great dungeons, interesting characters, colorful, vibrant, Just so much fun. I really, really liked this game. It's one I'm going to go back and play, every couple of years probably. I really, really enjoyed it. And of course, being on the Dreamcast makes it even better. So, what were some of the best games that you played in 2016? Things that were your favorites to play, whether they were stuff like mine or modern games that are actually current, which I normally don't get into. But yeah, those are my favorite games of 2016, and let's hope 2017 shows some even greater experiences.